Okay, so let's jump right in. When you take any medicine, you have this basic trust that every single pill is exactly what it's supposed to be, right? But making sure that happens, well, that's a huge scientific challenge. And today, we're going to talk about a major new guideline, ICH Q14, that is completely rewriting the rulebook on how it's done. I mean, this is really the big question, isn't it? How do you create a testing method that's so solid, so reliable, that it guarantees that same quality every single time? For decades, the whole industry has been working with a very rigid system, but that's all starting to change. All right, so the quality testing challenge. The real problem with the old way, what the guidelines called a minimal approach, was just how inflexible it was. The methods for testing drug quality were so locked down that trying to make even a tiny improvement was a massive headache. And this, right here, just nails the issue. Imagine you're a scientist and you figure out a slightly better, maybe faster, way to run a test. Under the old system, that simple change could kick off months, sometimes even years of paperwork and regulatory hoops. It basically created a system where it was often easier not to innovate because of the sheer hassle. So this brings us to the two paths. What ICHQ14 does is it officially lays out a new path forward. Now, it doesn't get rid of the old way. The minimal approach is still an option. But it introduces and really encourages what's called the enhanced approach, which is all about deeper scientific understanding and managing risk from the get-go. Now, what's so cool here is the side-by-side. On the left, you've got the minimal approach. Pick a technology, prove it works. Simple. But look at the enhanced approach on the right. It does all that, but it adds these crucial steps before you even start. You do risk assessments to figure out what could go wrong, and you run experiments to really truly understand how all the different factors play together. It's all about being proactive instead of just reactive. And this is the perfect way to think about it. The old way is like a train on a fixed track. It'll get you where you need to go, for sure, but there is zero room to move. The enhanced approach, that's like a high-tech drone. You still have a very clear destination, the quality you need to measure, but you also create this safe, pre-approved flight zone where the drone can move flexibly and efficiently to get the job done. So how does this whole enhanced approach actually work? Well, it's not some kind of magic wand, right? It's a toolkit, a set of really powerful science-based tools that let developers build that deep understanding and flexibility right into their tests from day one. It all kicks off right here with something called the Analytical Target Profile, or ATP. Think of it like this. It's the mission briefing. Before you even think about what equipment to use, you define exactly what the test needs to measure and how good it needs to be. You're setting the target first. And once you know exactly where you're going, the next step is to figure out all the things that could stop you from getting there. And that brings us to Quality Risk Management, or QRM. This is really the brains of the whole operation. It's a structured way to identify every little thing that could possibly affect the test performance. Stuff like temperature, pH, flow rates, and then you focus your energy on the ones that pose the biggest risk. It's all about working smarter, not just harder. Now, all that knowledge you gain from the risk assessment leads you to this, the Proven Acceptable Range, or PAR. So instead of having one single rigid setting for a parameter, you scientifically prove that there's a whole range, like a safe lane on the highway, where that parameter can move around without messing up the final result. But here's the key. This is for just one parameter at a time. The real magic happens when you start combining them. And boom, this is where it gets really, really powerful. The Method Operable Design Region, or MOD. This takes multiple PARs and weaves them together into a dynamic, multidimensional safe space. It means you have scientific proof that you can adjust multiple things at once, all within this space, and still get the right answer. For example, maybe you can lower the temperature a bit as long as you also slightly increase the flow rate. It gives you incredible flexibility. So what's the big payoff for all this extra science up front? Well, it leads to a much, much smarter way to manage these tests over their entire lifetime. It fundamentally changes the conversation between the drug companies and the regulators. You can see how this all comes together to define what the regulators actually need to pay attention to. This process lets a company identify its established conditions. Basically, you use all that science to prove to the regulators, hey, these two parameters are absolutely critical and need strict oversight, but these other ones, they're lower risk, and we can manage them ourselves through our own internal systems. And this is the mic drop moment. This one sentence from the guideline is an absolute game changer. It means that by defining and getting approval for a PAR or an MODR up front, companies get the freedom to make routine tweaks and optimizations inside that approved space without having to file a mountain of new paperwork every single time. When you boil it all down, the whole philosophy of ICH Q14 is this simple. You invest more in the science and understanding at the beginning, and in return, you get more flexibility and a lot less regulatory burden down the road. It's a win for innovation, a win for efficiency, and ultimately a win for quality. So, this new framework isn't just about making today's tests a little bit better. It's about opening the door to totally new, way more advanced ways of ensuring quality, things that were just incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to do under the old, rigid system. Yeah, we're talking about things like multivariate procedures that use really complex computer models to analyze data. And then there's the holy grail, real-time release testing, or RTRT. This is the idea that you can use data collected during the manufacturing process to confirm the product's quality as it's being made, instead of waiting to test a sample at the very end. It's a huge shift from quality control to true quality assurance. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. As these advanced, flexible tests become the norm, quality testing stops being the separate thing you do at the end. It becomes an integrated part of the manufacturing process itself. It's a future where quality is continuously being built in and verified, not just checked for later. And that is the powerful new direction that ICH Q14 is pointing us all toward.